Welcome to Reminiscences, a series of conversations with notable Saint Lucians in the United Kingdom diaspora. This series is a special project of the Saint Lucia High Commission in the United Kingdom. It's created to share and celebrate the experiences and contributions of Saint Lucians in Britain. I'm your host, Angela St. Denis. Today, we're delighted to feature someone whose story reflects dedication to service, deep community spirit, and cultural pride. Born in Saint Lucia, she began her life at the Anglican Infant and Primary School and later continued her secondary education at the St. Joseph Convent. All of this before relocating, or rather migrating, to the United Kingdom in the 1960s. Our guest is Kieran Howes. Kieran has been a qualified social worker for over 50 years, dedicating her career to supporting children, families, and communities in various local authorities in the United Kingdom. Her work has included residential children's homes, under 5 centers, fostering and adoption teams. She also holds management and public care qualifications and continues to serve as an independent social work consultant with local authorities across the UK. In private life, Kieran is a proud member of the Saint Lucian Association of 1963, where she serves on the executive, participates in the women's group, and is also a member of the Lucianites quadrille dance group. She is currently part of a focus group documenting the association's legacy. Welcome to Reminiscences, Kieran.
Thank you, Angela, for inviting me. It's good to be here.
Well, thank you for accepting the invitation. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today, and we're looking forward to hearing a lot more about your story, your journey, and we know that you've been here for decades.
A long time, yes.
Yes, she's very young, doesn't she look young? Yes, so we'll hear how she's kept her longevity, and it's very clear that she's very much service-oriented, involved in the community, and did a lot of work for generations with helping young people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
That's correct, yes.
All right, so we're talking about St. Lucia and how your St. Lucianness has affected your life in St. Lucia and the UK. And so to start it off, we'll go back into the memories as a child. What was it like growing up in St. Lucia prior to migrating to the United Kingdom?
Well, as you said earlier on, I was born in Saint Lucia in 1953. So I'm 72 years old now.
Wow,
very 72
well.
Years young now.
That's right.
I was brought up with my grandparents. There was an aunt and cousins. I was very sheltered because my grandparents were very strict.
Oh, okay.
Although my father was around, he was in the police force. So it was their responsibility to ensure that I stayed on the straight and narrow. So I wasn't allowed out, etc. So when I hear my friends now talk about going to Palm Beach and the things they did later on, I'm quite envious. But anyway, to go back, so I went to Anglican school, then afterwards the convent. I really enjoyed going to the convent.
What made it so enjoyable?
There was a camaraderie with the other people that I went to school with. And I always wanted to go to the convent because it was the school, the secondary school, that the girls wanted to go to and the boys to St. Mary's College.
So
and just wearing that blue and white school uniform.
Pride.
Exceptionally proud, yes.
Okay, so that experience at St. Joseph Convent, how long did you spend there? Did you do your entire 5 years?
No, I went there in 1964 and I left in 1967 when I came up to England.
Okay, so you did about 3 years?
Yes, a few years, yeah. Okay. The teachers were very strict.
But strict in the sense of how?
Well, we had to be punctual, and I still am. I don't like waiting around for anything.
And would you say that influenced your punctuality today?
Definitely. There was one particular, there were a couple of teachers, one particular one who, I think she was our English teacher. That was Joyce Glass. She owns Bay Gardens Resorts now.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And I
she's a teacher.
thought she was one of the most beautiful women on the earth. She dressed elegantly, and her hair was always, her makeup
was on point, as
was
you would
on
say.
point, yes.
Okay.
And then we had the others like the French teacher, and Madame Lucian, I think was French, and someone else who taught me needlework and crochet, which I still like, although I don't do it. Yeah, so there was some positive influence. And going home from school afterwards, just walking down the road in the uniform and stopping on the way to get tamarind balls and tamarind that was made dipped in caramel.
Oh, really?
Yes.
There was such a thing?
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I really did.
So I guess the sweet and sour created a
I
really
loved
nice...
everything about that, but I had to get home on time.
Okay, so tell us about the timing of school. Is it the same as it is today? What time did you start? What time did you finish?
You know, I don't remember what time we started, but we must have finished about half three in the afternoon.
Okay.
And in those days, there wasn't transport that you just got on. People used transport when they were going to the country, to the rural areas.
Okay.
So I did a lot of walking to and from school.
So we know the secret to your longevity.
Must be that. But now when I look at the distance, I'm amazed that I actually did it as a young child, because you see, no one walks these days. They just hop on the transport to get, you know, from A to B. Whereas we walked and thought nothing about it.
So that leads me, thanks for sharing that, because this is all information that I think the persons today don't really think about, young people today, those who have easy access to transportation to move from one place to the next. How long would you say was, well, the question to precursor that is, where did you live, and what was the distance between school and home?
Now I wouldn't know what the distance is, but if you think that we left from from the Leclerc area.
Okay.
Initially, when I was in Anglican school, it was in Hospital Road.
Okay.
Then we walked all the way to the gardens, to infant school. Then while I was at the convent, it was from Leclerc to the convent.
Yeah, it's at
so I don't know, maybe about 20 minutes or longer.
Yes. The thing is, was the roads built up at that time?
The roads were there, but when you're a child, that you don't actually think, are the roads gravelly or dirt? Yeah, the roads were built. Okay. But a few years ago, I actually went to the convent with one of my friends, Dolly Snack. She was in Saint Lucia at the time, and we met up. And we went to the convent. We drove up. And it looked so different. You know, the experience, the things that I remembered when going to the convent and going now.
Would you say it's improved dramatically? Has it changed the landscape?
It felt different. I think when you're a young person, going to school with all your friends, it feels different to when you actually visit.
Okay.
Yeah. It didn't seem so majestic, I should
at the time.
As it did. Okay. And one of the teachers took Dolly and I around and introduced us to one of the classes and told them how long ago we were there. They just looked at us as if we were dinosaurs. Thinking, did these people really come to the convent all these years ago? Yeah.
Okay, so just one more question related to your experience there. Did seeing some of the structures trigger memories that you had at the school? Can you remember anything outstanding that would have occurred?
No, when I went back, it didn't trigger any memories. But I remember things like church service. So because I was Anglican, and not Roman Catholic. There were services sometimes in church, in chapel. So the girls, I recall, who were maybe Catholic, went to the church services. But because we were non-Catholic, we didn't have to go. And also being in different, the houses, yeah, St. Mary, St. Teresa's house or things like that. I can't remember which house I was in.
Oh, okay.
But interestingly enough, a few years ago, they were doing, the convent, were doing some challenge. And the people that I knew of my age, they remembered the houses and were rooting for these houses. And I'm saying, but I can't. I think because I came here quite early. Okay, and many of them had remained, had completed their schooling at the convent and graduated, which I would have liked to do.
Yes,
to have done. Yes.
Okay, so I want to get back to that migration, but before we go there, I want to learn more about the surroundings. What do you remember about where you lived? What was Leclerc like? What was, did you say Hospital Road or?
Yeah, Hospital Road seemed, there was a community, very close community. I'm not sure if that's still the same, because when I drive past it, it seems very dilapidated, which it didn't seem in those days.
So tell us how it was back then for you. What were the houses like?
Well, the things I remember is there seemed to be like a communal area. Okay. And sometimes when I think about that, I think, is that something that really was? Or is that a memory that I would have liked it to be like? But I believe at the time everyone looked out for each other. I lived very close to, I call him Uncle Charles, Charles Bousquet, pilot. He used to take the boats, steer the big boats when they came into the harbor. He used to steer them out. So I used to live quite close to him. And he had turkeys and cocoa trees. So they would pick them open, and he would lay, or the house help would lay all the seeds on the veranda. And I remember just sucking them all the time, and my teeth feeling really strange. And he also had a hammock in his veranda. Okay. So Earl, his son, and I, we would be in this hammock all the time. Well, when we weren't at school, when I wasn't at school.
Oh, okay, shaking.
Yeah.
So remembering how Hospital Road is, you would have been able to see out to the harbor, have a view of the harbor at that time.
Definitely from, maybe not my house, but my uncle's house, or my great-uncle's house.
Any memories of what the harbor looked like at that time?
Small. Well, I thought it was big. Lots of small boats. I am amazed when I see the cruise ships that actually come into Saint Lucia at the moment, you know, now. I think maybe there was probably the odd one or two, but I wasn't really interested in whether the ships came in or not. Okay. I think what I was interested in, which was fascinating, was seeing Uncle Charles taking the boats, leading the boats, steering the boats out. I think he had to go at the front. He had the
pilot boat.
Yes, that's right. So they called him Pilot Charles Bousquet. Okay. So I thought that was fascinating.
Did you ever get a chance to go on the boat? No.
I don't swim.
So you didn't venture?
So no, I still don't swim.
Okay, all right. That's wonderful. In talking about Saint Lucia in terms of independence and that whole situation, did you know that Saint Lucia was part of the British Empire? Was that something that you were aware of?
I would have known, because at school, you know, so much of our education was based on telling us about Britain, everything, less so than about Saint Lucia. I think we know more about Europe than we did about Saint Lucia. Okay. So when it came to independence, I was here in England, so I didn't take much notice. I don't remember the build-up about independence, and I would say that's now it would be different because we're in the day of social media. Anything happens in Saint Lucia, we know about it in England before
the
even Saint Lucians know
that
about
is true.
it.
That is very true.
I think there was one time I was in Saint Lucia. It may have been the anniversary of independence.
Okay.
And there was things going on in the square, And in fact, as I say that, I remember an incident. I was staying with a friend, and maybe that was one of the anniversaries. I was staying with a friend in St. Lucia, and there were quite a few dignitaries that come over from different countries, ambassadors and diplomats.
Okay.
And the then Prime Minister, John Compton, called and asked, would I escort? I think it was the ambassador from Benin or to Benin.
Oh, really?
Well, would I look after him that evening? I think everything was winding down. And a friend and I took him. We were going to a club. A club somewhere in Castries. It's not there anymore. So we took him to that
for that
club.
experience.
Yeah.
Okay. So was this a random encounter? Were you familiar with the Prime Minister at the time, Sir John Compton?
He was a good friend of a very good friend of mine, Arlette Auger.
Okay.
So I was staying with her at the time and had crossed.
Okay, the paths crossed in that way. Okay.
Yeah, well, it was a random invitation.
So did you realize?
Request.
Sorry, did you realize that encounter? How did you realize that experience? It turned someone in international relations, an ambassador from another country. Did that have?
Never thought about it. Someone asked me to again serve in my country.
Yes.
So I did. I answered the call.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, that's it. Yes, and you understood the assignment.
I understood the assignment. Yes.
Okay, all right. So coming to, and we know that you're very involved in the community. So in terms of culture, quadrille, you're part of the Lucianites group, the Women's Committee in the Saint Lucian Association of 1963. How did that come about, considering you had left Saint Lucia in the 60s?
Yes, I would say, I don't recall exactly, but Saint Lucians used to meet. Like many other people from the Caribbean, where there wasn't access to maybe social halls, etc. And I remember that we used to have, St. Lucia used to have dances in some of the town halls. And I remember going to one in Islington Town Hall. And there were other dances in other places. So just going to a dance. And at the time, at one of the events, I believe there were people maybe like Jessie and Shirley Thibbles and Sylvia Mercier sitting at the table trying either to take tickets or take tickets and recruit people to, to the association. So that's how I got involved. Initially, I joined New Gen, which was a younger arm of the organization, and that eventually disbanded. And then I carried on being part of, not always on the exec, but always involved. If an exec member or somebody called me to say, could I do something, you know, I would say yes, always answering the call. Okay,
all right, wonderful.
And then, so now I'm on the exec, I'm the trustee. Then there was the women's group. They've been going for 38 years. So again, I joined that. And from the women's group, evolved the quadrille group. We were, someone in the group said, there was a lady, I can't remember her name now, it's gone, said about joining the group or making a group or learning quadrille. And that's how we started. So it was most of the women in the women's group began to learn the quadrille. That was 30 years ago, and we are still going strong.
Okay, and I know that there's, well, very good. And you know what, first of all, congratulations to you all for forming the group and helping to keep the traditions of St. Lucia in dance culture alive. And I know there's a shortage of men. So maybe you might want to tell the audience,
yes, Saint Lucians,
extend an invitation.
I'm extending an invitation to join the Lucianite quadrille group. We're desperate to recruit men. We meet the first and the third Friday of the month in Manor Park at the moment. But if you go on the Lucianites Instagram page, you will find my number, call me, and I will call you back. But we really do desperately want to recruit. At the moment, we're very busy, especially during Black History Month.
Okay.
So we've been asked to an event in Portsmouth on the HMS Nelson, an event in Brixton,
okay,
a big EBA event coming up, World Travel Market.
Oh, so
we were in
really
Wales
busy.
last year, so we are very, very, very busy.
Okay,
So the more the merrier,
indeed.
please.
Yes, and men. We need the men to come out.
We need you.
And let's not limit it to Saint Lucian. If you have a friend who's interested in learning the dance, bring them. That's not a Saint Lucian. Invite them along. Because the idea is to give the culture legs, as we would say, the culture, legs, and to ensure that there's sustainability.
Yeah, we've got non-Saint Lucians. Yeah, we've got non-Saint Lucians. And what's interesting is when people, spectators, see us in our national dress, they are bowled over. And when they see us dance, they really enjoy it. And say, I want to join. But they don't, it's not maintained.
Yes.
I think just seeing the color and the dance and it gets them excited, so they want to be part of that.
Okay.
So we're always looking for people.
So that gives me an idea really to recommend is perhaps maybe you can do with those persons, have a special session where you do a program, a short program to introduce them to the dance. So that way they're committed to whether it be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then you follow on.
You've obviously been speaking to somebody else in the group.
I have not.
I know. This is exactly one of the conversations we were having in our meeting recently. Because sometimes people don't necessarily want to perform.
Yes, that is correct.
But they're interested in the dance. And there was a discussion recently, because there are a number of young people who would like to join the group, but because we meet on a Friday, it's not the best time for them, because that's the time they probably want to go out.
Yes.
So we were thinking of maybe having another day just for that group to learn the dances, and if later they want to carry on being involved and perform, then that's fine. Okay. We were at the Millennium a couple of weeks ago at one of the Tourism Authority events.
The Saint Lucia Consumer Showcase.
Yes, that's right. And a couple of mothers were saying, do you have a group, do you have a group for children? We said we haven't at the moment, but we're open to doing that. We did try a few years ago, but it was a Saturday. Saturdays are not always easy for parents because they've got things to do.
Yes.
Yeah, but we're open to that. Anything to recruit, to extend so that fellow Saint Lucians and from other countries get to like the dance and experience our culture.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Kieran. So, viewers, this is your opportunity to join Lucianites, whether it be just to learn the dance or to extend the whole cultural experience.
And to join the Saint Lucian Association of 1963.
There
we welcome members.
Okay, excellent. So I'm sure we'll have the information in the bio of this recording, or you can look for Saint Lucian Association of London 1963. Just do a search and the website will come up. So, Kieran, we've been talking about your cultural influences. We talk about life in Saint Lucia, but we have not yet covered the transition, that move from Saint Lucia. What influenced the move from Saint Lucia to the UK?
My father was already here in England and sent for his children. There was myself and other siblings. I was excited at the time because going to England is something new.
Yes.
However, if I knew then what I know now, I don't know that I would have been that excited.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because when you're 14, it's an adventure. It's going to another country.
Yes.
But you don't realize at the time that 50 years later, you'll still be away from your home country at all. But life happens. You know, you went to school here, got a job, met someone, got married, children, etc. So things overtake.
Okay, it was one thing after the
another. And then 50 years later, you're still here. And you're thinking, how did that come across?
Okay, so before we get to what that first job was, what was it like? What was the journey like from St. Lucia to here? Do you remember that? And what was it arriving here?
I remember it was on a plane.
Okay, it was on a plane.
It wasn't on a boat. We flew. I had a yellow and white, almost Chanel type suit.
Okay.
Yeah, with little gold buttons. My father met me at the airport. And I hadn't seen him for a long time.
Did you recognize him when you saw him?
Yes, yeah. He left when I was about 8.
And did he recognize you easily?
I hope so. Otherwise, he would have taken home the wrong person. So yeah, it was an interesting journey from the airport to home, to where we lived. And when we arrived at the premises, the house, the home, I thought the whole building.
Yes.
Well, no, it was divided. Well, it was a long building. I didn't think the whole street was ours, but definitely the house that we stood in front with the door.
Because that's what you came from in St. Lucia.
I thought the whole thing would be ours. So a little bit disappointed to find out that it wasn't. And it didn't feel right. When I went into the
So was
house.
it a room or was it the entire masonette?
No, we had a flat. My aunt, my stepmom's sister and her husband owned it. Okay. So they had part of the house. We were in the basement. So that feeling about being closed in, I didn't like, and I still don't. When I go to St. Lucia and I return to England, there's this
feeling.
Yeah, I like open spaces. So where I live now, my house is open plan. Doesn't feel so closed in. So that was a disappointment. Being in somewhere enclosed as opposed to open.
The liberty that.
Yes, and then I think the next challenge was school. I remember my stepmom took me to, it was Starcross School, it was an all girls school, and I did the test. I did very well in whatever test they gave you for the first day to decide which class you would be put in. And I was put in the top class at the time. But from then it just went downhill. Oh. Because the teaching was different, the teaching method, and some of the things I had already covered in class in St. Lucia, they hadn't covered yet. So it was a struggle and a challenge, I think, for the teacher and for me.
Okay, I could imagine.
So I found it very, very challenging. So when it came to exam time, I can't remember how long I stayed there, I didn't do well in my exams at all. Okay. And remember feeling devastated about that. Because it seemed like a failure. I'd never failed. To where In primary and infant school, I was always top of my class. So then not to get the results that I wanted, I was devastated. But luckily, I had a Latin teacher. She was from the Caribbean. Don't recall which place now. I did well in Latin. I don't know what that was about. And we met up. I had a conversation with her. And she recommended that I didn't go back to the secondary school. Okay. But that she knew someone who was the head of a college in Hackney. And she thought I would do better at the college than in school. Okay. So she contacted this headmaster. And I started at Hackney and Stoke Newington College. I enjoyed that. because it was a more positive experience. I met other young people who were in situations similar to mine, because they had come from they also had come from the Caribbean around the same time.
So you felt comfortable in that setting.
And I think they had also not done very well in school, but we did, we formed a nice little group. I think we had a lot of things, many things in common, coming from the Caribbean, different Caribbean islands.
Yes.
Different Caribbean islands. It's gone out of my head now. Dominica, St. Vincent, Antigua. So those were a
lot of the OECS kind of islands. Well, not kind of, but OECS
but
islands.
that was the best thing in terms of my education at the time. That happened, and all because of this particular teacher who taught me Latin in the girls' school. Because obviously she saw a potential, and that's really important.
Yes.
Because if I'd stayed at that school, I really don't know what would have happened.
Yes.
And also the group that I connected with, some of us are still friends. Tells you how.
So you formed a bond over those shared experiences, shared culture, challenges.
Definitely.
That you were able to overcome. And it just shows from this experience you've shared the power that teachers have, either to make or break students. And so teachers, those who are building up their students, we commend you. Saint Lucia, the UK, wherever you are in the world, very well done, and continue the good work.
Definitely.
And so that same thing also applies to parents, because your parents could have said, I want you to continue going to the secondary school. They had to be receptive to that suggestion and open to that suggestion. So kudos to all of them for supporting your journey. So that's really good. So coming out of college, what did you do after college? How did that influence the first job, your career?
My first job, I don't know that college influenced my first job.
Tell us more.
I'm thinking whether it was at college that we had a careers teacher. It must have been at college. There used to be what at the time they used to call them careers teachers. That you used to have a meeting with them, and they would give ideas about where you might want to work, or what you should do, or what would you like to do with your career path. And I remember the conversation with the careers officer is that she was suggesting that I work in a shop. I've got nothing against shopkeepers, nothing at all. I think they work very, very, very hard. But I really did not see myself.
Yes, that was not for you.
Yeah, and the thing is, she didn't even say whether it was a greengrocer's shop or a dress shop. It was just a shop.
Yeah, you had a bigger vision for yourself.
I had a bigger vision.
Yes.
And I didn't want to be a nurse. Again, I think nurses do a brilliant job. I'm not nurse material.
Yes.
I will nurse my family, but I'm squeamish about blood. Not my own or my children's. I can manage that.
Yes.
But I really admire people who are doctors and nurses. You know, there's an accident and they're
able to attend, and the trauma. I'm like you.
Yeah.
I totally commend them. They're doing a great job, and well done. The phrase, to each his own.
Yeah.
To each his own.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So again, it wasn't anything against nurses. I just could not see myself in that role. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew what I didn't want, but I didn't know what I wanted. So there was also a book, almost like a careers book, and you could go through it and see what what you might be interested in. I remember doing that. I'm thinking radiology, radiographer, no. And this thing went on, nothing, I couldn't see. And then I think somewhere, whether it was in the book or somewhere else, about being a nurse in a mental health hospital.
And that appealed to you?
I don't know that it appealed. I'll be honest. I do not know that it appealed. But it was in the caring.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't know that's what I wanted to do. I did interview, I got the job, and then the first day I walked into, it was a massive establishment, and I thought, this is not for me. I left.
Okay.
I left immediately, like 10 minutes after I walked in. And coincidentally, but I don't think there are many coincidences, although we say things,
yes, we
coincidence.
say that, but,
I was at a party in Islington, I think, and it wasn't one of those parties where there was lots of dancing, etc. It was just people having a drink and talking, and I was speaking with someone, and she was asking me what I did, and I said nothing. And she said, nothing yet. I wasn't just singing around, nothing yet. Yes. And she said, would you be interested in, maybe looking after children, I think she said at the time. And I didn't know anything about the care system, about social services. And I said yes.
Okay.
She interviewed me, and I ended up working in a children's home in Stevenage.
Oh.
It was a small children's home with 8 young people. In those days, they used to call the caregivers, they were house mothers and house fathers. And very often it would be a couple.
Okay.
So they would look after the children. So I started in Stevenage. As I said, I knew nothing about social work, nothing about caring for other people's children, for other people's children except my siblings, because we were a large group. And so that's where I started.
Okay.
What I was thinking about this just recently. I don't remember any guidelines about what to do. Okay. But I do remember we had to record the day,
Okay.
Peter woke up this morning, had breakfast, went to school, and so we had to do logs, daily logs. We prepared, there weren't any cleaners or anything.
So this means that you lived in?
I lived in, okay. That's right. So we prepared their meals and all the things you would do looking after a young person. There was one young person who, I'm not sure if she'd come over from the Caribbean, but she was of Caribbean heritage. A girl, may have been, I don't know, maybe about 14 at the moment. And I remember her hair was never, ever, ever combed. And in looking after her, I took a keen interest in her, an interest in all the young people, but sometimes there's one young person.
Yes, that stands out.
That
you
stands
feel like
out,
you need to help
yeah. And I remember calling her to comb her hair. It may have taken me hours. It was basically having to do a little bit at a time. A little bit, and she was being bullied in school.
Oh dear.
So there were no hair products, well, definitely not in that area. There wouldn't have been. And she wasn't traveling into London or knowing what to do. And combing her hair and being actually a sense of achievement, I think, for both her and I. Getting
that you were able to get it
through. Yes.
I could imagine.
And getting her to really start looking after her skin and her hair. And so this was what, 1972. That was 1972. That's when
not too long ago, when you think about
first job.
Yes.
And I met her at a funeral a few months ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'd seen her off and on, but not for long periods. So I saw her at this funeral. And I was asking someone, there were about 3 people in front of me. I was asking them, are you going to such and such a funeral? And they said yes. And this person turned around and she says, Kieran. And it was her. And we were talking later, before the funeral, after. We said, oh, let's exchange numbers. And I said, it's Kieran. She says, as if I'll ever forget that name. And I thought that was so interested after all these years. And she works with children. She actually works with children. So somewhere there was an impact.
Yes, very likely.
Yeah, so from the Stevenage experience, and I moved into London, working in another children's home. Then I did training as working for local authority in residential children's homes. I did placements in places like Leeds and Wales.
Okay, so you had the opportunity to travel around the UK to do your work.
Yeah, to do at least placements. And then, I was in residential. And then I became a social worker. But then I went into, we used to call it field work at the time. So it wasn't a residential it wasn't residential social work. It was actually in the community. So they used to, I think, make a distinction by calling it field work, but it was in the community, office-based or community-based. And did that for a while. It's interesting because obviously learning all the time.
Yes.
And not many social workers from Black and ethnic minority groups at the time.
Wow. So you were pioneering as
well. So yeah, you literally stand. But also seeing lots of children from those backgrounds in care. And I would say some of their stories were that they'd been left behind with grandparents while their parents came to England.
Okay.
To live, and then brought them over later on. And in some of their cases, there was a disconnect.
Yes, they would have been.
Yeah. So so some of them would have met other siblings that they didn't know in the Caribbean, and met parents that they didn't know, because maybe the parents had not gone back since they left, or returned to the Caribbean.
So there's no relationship connection.
Precisely. So some were able to make good relationships, and others, there was just detachment, where parents would then say, well, I can't look after this child. This young person is not listening. And some of them would end up in care. Not all the time, but sometimes.
So that kind of leads me to a question two questions, as a matter of fact. One, in that your Saint Lucianness, how do you think that helped you to maybe help these children to understand their situation? Or did it help? Did it influence how you interacted with them?
Yes, I think it did. Because I had been left.
Okay.
And my siblings had been left. I came over here. I met new siblings here that were born here.
And there's a different dynamic.
Yes, obviously, parents.
Yes.
My father left when I was 8, about 8 years old. So that what they were experiencing, although everybody's experiences are unique to them, but I could empathize with what they were going through. And I'm not sure if it's because we were a big group in terms of my siblings, we were able to manage that transition, all of us, blend together. It's not easy to blend blended families, but we were able to do that. Or I was able to do that. But not everyone can. So I was able to understand their situations.
So as you speak about, thanks for sharing that, about blending the families, do you believe that because of how your father and his wife at the time interacted with everyone, that helped with the blending, or was it just you all as children thinking?
I think maybe us as children. Yeah, but my stepmom, she treated all of us the same. It wasn't like her children.
Okay.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, all right, wonderful. So all of these experiences, seeing the children along, seeing that they're from the Caribbean and you have these shared experiences, how did you deal with the challenge of those who you were not possibly able to help? How did you manage that? Because I'm sure you were moving from various sites, as you mentioned. You went to Leeds, you went to Stevenage, you probably went to Wales and all these.
It's the Stevenage one was different because it was a smaller unit, just a couple. The next place that was like an assessment center, that was larger and more staff. So what would happen is that you would be assigned, you would key work some young people. And the reality is that you might make connections with some children, they might make a connection with you, and it works, and you can work through the challenges. For other young people, the connection isn't there, and I would say because of the trauma, because their backgrounds, etc., their backgrounds and what they've been through, family situations, not wanting to be in the unit that they're in, because they want to be at home, even if home is a challenge. But sometimes children can come from the most dysfunctional, difficult backgrounds and homes, and want to be there as opposed to the home, as opposed to somewhere else.
Okay, all right.
So I did, so that was the social work. And then I moved into under 5s day centers. Under 5s day centers.
How did you make that transition? Or what inspired?
Okay, what inspired? I was trying to. Why did I move from social work into under 5s? Because I had my first child, and it was easier. Because in residential, there were lots of shifts. So you can work in the evenings, during the day, etc. Moving into under 5s, although it didn't necessarily have to be under 5s. It could have been just another job somewhere else.
Yes, another day job.
But under 5s, I liked working with children. I had my first child. I decided that working in a nursery might be beneficial for me, that I might be able to take her, which I did. So that, that was good. I was, in those days, the under 5s the day nurseries, they used to call them then, or nurseries, was very, there was a matron, which was the head of the nursery, and she would, her uniform might be one color. Then there was the deputy head who would have a different uniform.
Interesting.
And then the other members of staff, different uniforms. The matron always had her bunch of keys for all the doors.
So I see where this is going. Yeah, let's go. I'm looking for
parents brought their children to the nursery, brought them to the door, left them, did not come in.
Oh, okay.
And went about their business, then came back. I just found that it was unfair on the children, because children, this thing about, while children, I'm just thinking about it now, children play peekaboo. Yeah, babies play peekaboo. But when they open their eyes, they still see very often their caregiver or the person that they're playing peekaboo with. If you're a parent, you leave your child at the door and you don't say anything to them. They don't know whether you're coming back or not.
No, they don't. No.
Just someone's taken you to a room, and when you look again, your caregiver is no longer there. But I had no influence then, but I could see there are things I didn't like. And there were lots of children whose parents were from the Caribbean or Africa, of Caribbean and African heritage. And all the workers were white, or most of the workers were white.
So we could see a cultural challenge coming along.
Yeah, all the books, none of the storybooks reflected these children. They couldn't open a book and see someone that looked like them. All the food was very English. So those were some of the challenges, and trying to address them was not easy, because obviously things had been done for the longest while.
In that particular manner.
Yes. It was all the nurseries in that area were no one challenged, and I understood that, but tried to do my little bit. But when the opportunity came, I think the matron resigned, I applied for the job and I got it. And
so this was your chance.
This was my chance. Yes, this was my chance. Not everyone was pleased.
Of course.
At all. And also in that area, all the nurseries, all the managers, all the matrons were white. So I'll come back to that a little bit. So I started to look at the menu, what the children were being fed, and I put rice and meat on the menu, and it didn't go down well. And the cook would say, "See, I told you they won't eat it." She bought pudding rice, didn't she?
So clearly,
but I never ever thought that if I put rice and meat on the menu, I never thought to say to the cook, "This is the kind of rice you need to get." So if she went out, she didn't know any difference, and she bought some kind of rice pudding. Of course, it wouldn't go down well. So that you realize then that you also have to, what you take for granted.
It's not so.
Yeah, precisely. You need to provide information. You have to educate people. I started to source books, like storybooks. And there were books around, but we just didn't have them. No one bothered. A storybook is a storybook.
They did not see the need.
They didn't see the need.
To have all the inclusiveness that's
precisely. Toys, dolls, and where people had made the effort to look for dolls that were, like black dolls, sometimes they were white dolls, but with the same features, but like painted or given a darker hue. So looking for dolls which were different, looking for books, looking for toys, music, bringing in different music.
Yes, yes.
I remember we brought this guy in, something Benjamin. He used to come in and with his guitar and sing like the coconut songs and various things like that. So a big change. Some went down well, some didn't, but then you don't give up. There was a reason I was doing it. Opening the doors so parents could actually bring their children into the nursery and stop, and got rid of all the pink uniform and the separation and the keys, etc. And yes, it was difficult when parents brought their children in and they had to leave. Whether they left them at the door or brought them in and leave, it was more or less the same, because the kids were screaming, the children were crying anyway. But at least if they stayed and gave them a hug and they saw that you were taking them. Yes, but and also you reassure the parents, because when they leave and they hear their child screaming, what it feels like to hear your child is crying.
Is being tugged at. What is
but
happening?
if a member of staff picked your child up and say bye to mom, talk to the mom, talk to the child. Both are reassured. Yes, there'll still be some crying.
Yes.
But the child also knows, and you're also reassuring them, mommy will come back, daddy will come back. You're still reassuring everybody that you'll see each other at the end of the day.
That's commendable that you were able to do that.
Yeah, it was hard work. I was
I could
tired
imagine.
I was exhausted.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I
How did
was.
you remain committed or I would say focused and not be distracted? Because at that time, I'm certain there was a lot of opposition, as you indicated.
There was a lot of opposition.
You were a black person in a position that's not normally the case for minorities.
And then the other thing was I didn't have what they called an NNEB qualification, which is a nursery.
Okay.
There was a qualification for nursery workers. So that brought a lot of controversy. And later, the powers that be also brought in someone that didn't have the... There were strikes for this, or this other person came in. I would come to work in the morning, although she wasn't in my team, but I think the fact that the local authority had appointed me and appointed in somebody else at another time, although she was just a key worker. There were strikes. I would come into work and there would be like swatch stickers daubed on the wall.
Oh, wow.
On the sidewall. And I remember there was one time I was off and they called, some of the other members of managers had called a meeting and actually came to my nursery to talk about basically getting rid of me. But there was I had staff who were loyal, especially some of the black workers, who would say, Kieran, this happened yesterday, that happened yesterday. Just took, if it was a challenge, but I knew it wasn't going to be easy, and I knew why I was doing it.
Okay.
It wasn't on a whim. It's important that children, we build their self-esteem. We give them confidence in who they are. They can look at in the mirror and they like their hair, they like their skin.
Like what they see.
Yeah, and I think there was one of my staff at Christmas time, cut out a big figurine of Father Christmas and she painted it in brown to show that it could be brown Santa Claus.
Okay, okay.
Because what do we see for Santa Claus, for Father Christmas? It's always a white person with a white beard, but
yes,
it doesn't have to be like that.
Yes, okay.
So yes, it was challenging and I was tired after a couple of years, but I'm glad, what was achieved.
Okay. Any of the students from that time, do you see them now? Do you remember any doing?
No, I met one of the mothers. I think it was last Valentine's Day. There was an event. I don't think you went to that one. Tweezy, what's her name? Lauren.
Oh, yes, I was there.
Yeah,
yes,
one of the mothers was there, and she was telling me about her son. And he had come to the nursery. She told me, look him up on Google, and I did, and he's achieved all these things. I think he's a producer or a DJ. He travels all over the place. Great. So yeah, sometimes I meet not necessarily the children, but the mothers who say, oh, my child came and this is what happened. And I remember when such and such happened and you did this. So it's good, it's good.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, good. So you did work in those under 5 centers. Thank you very much for sharing that and that experience. I could see the memories coming back a bit in your face. But you transitioned to social work.
Yeah, so I was doing social work in under 5s, then I did the under 5s, then I went back into social work. Yeah, then I came out of social work, again, always in the caring field. I wanted a change, and it was for a placements officer in a local authority. And again, didn't know anything about placements. Read the job description.
So, yes.
I thought, I could do it. I could do it. And got the job. There was one other they wanted 2 placements officers. There was somebody already doing it, and somebody already in a post. And that was, we're looking for placements for children who were looked after by the local authority. Mm-hmm. And some of them were foster carers. So we had the foster carers matching the children. So for example, someone would ring up, one of the teams would ring my team, the placements team, and say, we've got little Johnny in the office, his mom's dropped him, she doesn't want him back, or something else, can you find a placement for him? It's usually a foster placement, so we would call the foster placement, the foster carers, we had all their details, ask them to take the child. And so that's how it started. But also with some of the young people, you weren't always able to place them in foster care because of the reasons that they probably come into care, especially some of the teenagers who, you tried foster carers and carers saying, can't. Yes. Yeah. So there were times we would put them in children's homes. So one of I'm trying to remember if the person working with me had already begun to do that, but I was concerned about the fact that sometimes we were placing children in children's homes, and we didn't know what the homes were like. So one of the things both of us, he and my colleague and I decided to do, we would visit homes, not necessarily when we had a child in there, but we would make up a list of homes. We'd have a list of homes. We would visit them, see what the staff were like, look at their records, see if they kept them, what they said about the child, and basically whether it was suitable before them. So if we did have a referral and it was a home, a children's home, a residential home that was needed, then you already had the info and you had an idea, as opposed to just leaving your child in, our young person there and not knowing. Because their social workers were visiting them, but in terms of going through their logs, looking at their policies, their protocols, what they did about safeguarding. When the child went missing, what did they do? How did they meet the needs of the child or the children? So we started to do, that was a different piece of work that we weren't asked to do. But you see a need for it, you see a need, and then it's a challenge. And then you do it.
Yes, and it looks like challenges.
It's for the best, it's always about putting the child as the focus. It's always about the best, looking in the best interest of the child or young person.
So that's really good. It looked like you were very much up for challenges. So that seems to have been a cornerstone of your experiences over those 50 years within service. Now, what would you say is the cornerstone of such a long career in that field? What kept you there? Because it's a challenging field.
Yes, it is. I think I had the capacity to do it. I was interested in children having a good start in life. So that's like the under fives with their self-esteem, developing that, confidence in themselves and where it could take them. But also, it's about how I would have wanted my children to be looked after.
Okay.
And I think I would say there were, and it's happening more and more, a core group of especially Black social workers who were saying this, how we look after our children needs to change,
Okay.
or how our children were looked after needs to change. So then you begin advocating.
Okay.
It's about advocating on the behalf of children and young people.
Okay. And in that advocacy, you start to see change.
Yeah.
So I'm sure those changes
Doesn't happen overnight.
I would imagine.
Yeah, and it's not static. It's not static, especially now. You know.
Okay.
It's not static. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So just to, I mean, Kieran, this has been an excellent conversation in terms of sharing that contribution of being a Saint Lucian in the UK. At the time when you would have left Saint Lucia, you weren't a Saint Lucian, you would have been a British citizen because it was prior to independence.
Yeah, well, I never saw myself as
but
that.
You never saw it, yes. So that's really good. Would you say, just one last question as we close out, well, two rather. One is a question and one is, I would say, a call to our Saint Lucian. Would you say that growing up, those early years in Saint Lucia influenced how you wanted to make an impact here? And because you said how you'd want your children to be raised is one of the things that motivated you.
You know, it's about the values I think my grandparents instilled in me, which I believe I've instilled in my children, and I think my brothers and sisters have instilled in their children, and I hope my great-grandchildren that's been instilled in them. But yes, it was also a work ethic.
Okay.
Also, again, you know, talking about knowing what it is that you want and not settling for less. You know, there are lots of times that I could have settled maybe for, oh no, I shouldn't say that. There are lots of times because...
There are a few times you considered.
I considered.
Yes.
But not for 5 minutes, if that, but didn't go any further than that.
Yes, yes. Okay, all right, wonderful. Thanks for sharing your story. What message would you like to give to Saint Lucians in the diaspora, whether it be the UK or around the world, in contributing where they're at or contributing to Saint Lucia? Because you're part of the Saint Lucian Association, you're part of keeping that culture alive. What message would you want to leave in it? Especially the younger generation.
Yes, it's an interesting one because it's easy to give a flip answer, but everybody's situation is different. And I think it's important that you have, let's say career-wise, you have an idea about what it is you would like to do, what it is you want for yourself, what it is you want to achieve, and don't let anything or anyone hold you back. Just go for it and do the best that you can and be proud of yourself.
Excellent. We couldn't have ended on a better note. Thank you so much, Kieran.
You are welcome.
For joining the conversation, of sharing your experiences, of providing those highlights that possibly we wouldn't have known. And so we hope that our viewers feel enriched, feel inspired to not just contribute to their community, but to the wider city, to their heritage, whether you're Saint Lucian or not. Thank you. This has been Reminiscences, a series of conversations with notable Saint Lucians in the United Kingdom diaspora. My name is Angela Denis. I was your host. We look forward to you joining us for another episode. Thank you, and bye for now.